Okay, well, here it is. First impressions of my homemade CNC router. Basically taken off designs and copies of CNC machines off the internet. I am using a NEMA 17 motor for the Z-axis with a 2mm lead screw. This appears to be quite strong. I'm using NEMA 23 motors for the X-axis and the Y-axis, which is mounted under here, under the fan. These are actually on an 8mm lead screw at the moment, 8mm lead. These I think I might change for a 4mm lead. I haven't got them on order, but at the moment the function seems to be pretty good. I'm using a Kitsu router, which is basically a copy of the Makita router. These are actually 65mm exhaust brackets, which fit the router exceptionally well. I've got two half brackets on the back, and I did have two brackets for here and one for below, but now I've decided just to use one bracket in the middle, which spaces this pretty well and holds the router pretty firm in the mount. This doesn't move. The control underneath is 3 TB6600 drives. There will be a fourth drive in here, because what I'm going to do eventually is to take the center drive from here, and I'm going to put a NEMA 23 motor on this side and a NEMA 23 motor on this side of the carriage, and run two ball screws down there. If anybody on YouTube has recommendations or reservations on this, I would really appreciate any comments, but I feel it would give it a little bit more rigidity here. I'm about 200mm across between these two, but I think I should have probably gone a little bit wider. The bridge is fairly strong. It's actually pivoting around the center point at the moment, but I'm not finding any difficulties at all with the routing at the moment. I've used two energy chains, one on here and a drag chain down here, and then the frame is 40mm by 40mm square section tube, square section box section, with two angles across the middle. The accuracy from side A to side B is about 0.01 of a millimeter, and from this end to the far end is also about the same. This is medium density fiberboard, but it's the moisture resistant medium density fiberboard, and I've coated it with a hardener, which actually makes this surface very, very hard. At the moment I'm a bit loath to drill holes in it or use it actually as a wasteboard, because I have here approximately about 80mm of travel, which at the moment the routing is going down quite far, and I think I might make a small extension up here to use this, to have this as the base and then have this as the wasteboard above it, and then this wasteboard can be bolted to this one, and this remains stable within the machine permanently. The power supply and the switches over here, I have an on-off switch for the drives, which turns the drives on. I have a secondary switch here which will eventually turn a router on, but at the moment for the router the cable is just over here, because I've seen people with problems with interference from the router, and at the moment I'm trying to do this step by step and keep any interference out of the system. But eventually, if everything works okay, then there will be a cable within here for the router. But at the moment I can have the router plugged in here over the top of a beam in the shed, and then I can take the router off or fit a different router if I need to make changes, or use the router in a different position if I need to in the workshop. The system is running on an Arduino. The Arduino is a simple one, it's a cheap Chinese copy one. I have fuses for each of the drives mounted on here, and a fuse for the Arduino. I also have a pause and a resume button. I did have a stop button, but this is disconnected at the moment because I have a problem in the stop where I have to go to the machine inspector and release the stop afterwards. But I will put an emergency stop on this side of the machine, which will actually kill the power completely. So this one at the moment is not required. These two are just spare buttons for some function in the future, maybe a laser on, laser off, whichever I deem fit. I do have a fan fitted in this side of the casing, which actually is blowing through the casing through to this side, which, although I've not experienced it, none of these drives in here have actually got hot at all. They do appear to be running pretty well. I do have limit switches fitted on the machine at the Z1s, the Z upper and lower positions, and the X position carriage and the Y position carriage. But at the moment these aren't wired in. I'm still a newbie at the CNC side of it, and at the moment I am using easel, but I'm trying to learn different software at the moment. But at the moment easel is working out to be a pretty good system just to start with. I have found to align the machine up, because my frame is very square, that I use a framing square, so I can actually put my wood on and lock it to the side, and then I use this as a reference to put the wood against and then tape it down to the board at the moment. That is proving to be very accurate and gives me a good position. I have got some different bits on order. This is just a cheap bit at the moment from a router set I had in the garage. I have got some smaller bits on order because I want to do more engraving eventually, but at the moment it seems to be okay for the little bits I'm doing. Nothing special yet. I think in the future, if I made another one, I would probably go with a slightly heavier rod here. This is a small one. I was trying to determine what I needed from eBay, and I bought this set, but in retrospect I wish I'd have got a slightly heavier one, although I can't move it. There is no movement in it. I just feel that from seeing other comments on eBay that this might need to be strengthened up at some point. But I'm very happy with this. The aluminium extrusion was a piece of, this is what it was all based on. The aluminium extrusion is bolted to the side plates with a piece of all thread going through from one side to the other within the frame of the extrusion, and comes out on this side onto some extension nuts, and then these extension nuts are used to make a bracket to mount the motor for this axis. Everything there is very solid. This is exactly perpendicular to this. This is exactly perpendicular to this. I do a little bit of movement in this frame if I do want to, if it was out a little bit, but from day one this has been exactly square to this. This has been exactly square to this. I do have a box on here at the moment which I was going to wire the limit switches into, but this box will come away. I don't think I need this unless I use this for a 240 volt connection to power the router at some point. But I hope you appreciate this very short, or maybe too longer, a spiel on my new CNC machine. But at the moment I am very happy with it, and like I say, I'm learning, and it was built in this small 8-foot by 10-foot shed in the back because my garage at the moment is full of other equipment. But yes, I am happy, and I shall be hopefully posting videos in the future from now, because I do want to make another one which will be smaller than this one, because I think I've probably gone too large. This is actually the footprint on this is actually my workable area is 600 millimeters by around about 800 millimeters, maybe 700 millimeters. So I do have a fairly big area on the machine to work with, and I think most of that usable area probably might not be used, so I think I might make a smaller machine with maybe a 300 by 400 or a 400 by 500 base. I do have spare motors because I was unsure what motors to buy. I do have spare lead rods, and I have to buy the bearing rails. So the second one shouldn't be such a big investment. I think the investment in this at the moment in English pounds is around about £300, but I haven't totaled everything up. In fact, I daren't, because my wife might go mad at me if I did the total cost. But I think at the moment I'm probably £350 into this machine. So overall I think I probably got a £1,500 machine. So I'm very, very happy. Thank you for listening. I hope it is useful for people in the future. If you have any comments, please post them. If you have any ideas that might make it better for me in the future, or a better version of software that you might recommend, I would be extremely grateful for any help. I am based in the West Midlands in England, and I do not know anybody around me that is making any equipment like this, or anybody I can talk to about this. So any comments on YouTube would be fantastic for me to learn from. Thank you very much. My name's Greg, and hope to hear comments soon. Thank you. Bye bye.